And welcome back to the Dev Mentor Dave channel here on YouTube and on Twitch, streaming live most Monday through Fridays at 4 p.m. till about 4:30 p.m. Might go a little bit later today. We'll see. Since I was not here yesterday, and I apologize for that. Just got busy with work stuff needed to get done. So hopefully you all are having a good day and are ready to have a good weekend as we get ready to kick off the weekend here. I gotta turn this. There we go. Okay, that's what happens when you don't look at things before you get set up. Unfortunately, that's all right. We'll figure it out. So again, sorry for being gone yesterday. Just had some stuff that I needed to take care of for work and kind of bled into the rest of a lot of the evening actually. Pretty late into the evening anyway. And then I had other stuff in the evening as well. So we should be good for our Workday recap today, though. So if you are watching live, jump in the chat, say hello, ask a question. If you're asking a question to me specifically, whether on YouTube or on Twitch, type at DevMentorDave in the chat, and then that'll just get my attention. It puts a little box around it so I can see it a little bit easier. So if you're chatting with somebody else, I know that you're not talking to me. All right, so let's see here. I'm going to actually change things around here and get rid of this. Not a huge fan of the white box. Let's see. Put the overlay back. There we go. And boom. All right. Yeah, I'm not liking the box. I think we're just going to I'm gonna find something else for the chat eventually, but not a fan of the box anymore. It just takes up too much space. It looks weird. Alrighty. Welcome Dan. Welcome Ming. Good to see you guys. Thank you very much for jumping in here. This is I do have an interesting thing I just found on LinkedIn that I thought I would throw up here. Maybe get Dan's opinion of it as well. I'm gonna hang on, make myself a little bit bigger here. Let's see. First screen capture stuff. Boom. All right. Let's take a look here. So this is over on my Dev Mentor Dave example LinkedIn page, whatever it is. Anyway, so I saw this quote here. Actually, can I make that bigger? Come on. Bigger. I don't know if that really helped anything. Maybe I should have just zoomed in. You would think I would know what I'm doing at this point. Not so much. All right. So here's a post from Harley Ferguson. I honestly have no clue who that is, but there you go. It's interesting concept. So Dan, feel free to jump in here. You too, Ming, and let me know what you think about this. Code is the enemy. Every developer should write as little code as possible. All right. Well, at least they're going to give you some reasons why they think that is true. Let's see. More code means more potential bugs. That is true. The more code that we write, the more bugs, potential bugs there can be. So I agree with that. More code means more code to maintain. Also true. If you've ever had to jump into into an application that had thousands of files to sift through. Now, in today's day and age, with the IDEs that we have, you can kind of use hotkeys and things to click on classes and stuff like that. And well, that's annoying. You can click on classes and things and actually go directly to yeah, exactly, Dan. Good take for getting reactions. But you can go directly to the file. Back in the old days, we had to try to figure out. We had to use our brains and try to figure out where things were. So, it was a little bit tougher. But so maintaining your code is a lot easier now, especially in the day of AI, where it can sift through all of your code and find things that you're looking for, and even see context. Excuse me. So I think it's definitely a lot easier to maintain larger code bases now. So I don't know that is as big of a problem. Now the first one, to potential bugs, that I do agree with, is it's no matter how good AI gets, the more code you have, the more potential bugs you have. So I do agree with that. More code doesn't necessarily mean more code to maintain. Theoretically, it does, but I mean, with the tools that we have today, I think that's a lot easier. More code means more effort to rewrite it later. Now, this is something that I will disagree with because, well, for a couple of reasons. First of all, there's an assumption there that you're going to have to rewrite it later. More often than not, from what I've seen, you don't typically rewrite things within the same ecosystem, right? So if I'm rewriting an application, I'm probably doing it because it's using an old framework that doesn't work anymore or needs to be completely updated because it's very, very far behind. Or I'm writing it in a new language. Generally, if you're rewriting, you're probably rebuilding and you're probably doing it from scratch. A rewrite, just because there's lots of code doesn't mean it's going to be more difficult to rewrite that piece of code or that application, especially if you just start fresh. In fact, this is honestly what most developers like to do, is start fresh. We would much rather build an application from the ground up, even having an application to look at and see how they did things in the past. We would much rather start fresh. So I don't know about this third one. You know, I don't know a ton of people who are just rewriting existing stuff. Now, I had to do that before? Yes. Was it a pain in the rear? Absolutely. But most of the time, at least in my experience, if you're going to rewrite something, you're rewriting it from the ground up, or you're rewriting it module by module, in which case I don't think there's any more effort to rewrite it, at least in the experience that I've had. So I would disagree with this one. More code means more documentation to write. This also makes the assumption that you're writing documentation. I can count on one finger the number of applications that I've been a part of that actually had adequate documentation. The reality is most applications, at least in my experience, most applications do not have adequate documentation before, during, or after the application has been built. So, plus another thing is, again, now with the reality of AI, documentation can be written much more quickly than it used to be. You also have tools that have been around for a long time that could help you automate documentation based on comments that you put in your code. So I don't know. I do agree that the goal is to write as little code as possible, but from my perspective, the reason for that is because, one, I do agree with the first one. There's more potential bugs, but two, more code often is a sign that you haven't thought through what you're trying to build very well or completely, right? If you're writing tons of code, either it's a really complex, massive project, or you're kind of thinking through it as you're going along, and you're probably rewriting a lot more things as you go along because you haven't planned it out very well. And I think, it says strive for less but more readable code. Readability is, in my opinion, another thing. Not necessarily it's not the same as writing less code. It's a different thing that we should aspire to, and that is writing readable code that somebody else can come along later and actually understand. I think I've got some water here. I'm down to just ice, and I forgot to get some before I jumped on, but I have a little bit in a bottle. There we go. Okay. Let that cool off for a second because I'm going to need it. Okay. So I think I sort of agree with this. I think it's a good thought project. For me, the main reason why you write less code is because you spent more time planning and thinking through and knowing what you're going to write in advance. I tend to write more code when I'm trying to figure it out as I go along the way. So let's see. Yeah, I agree with that. Dan says it's a nuanced take. It is right in a way, but you shouldn't be afraid of writing code. However, sometimes more code is good. What is better for readability? Nested if statements in JavaScript or nested ternary function? The ternary potentially has less characters, but is arguably harder to read and reason about. I absolutely agree with that. Um, there are times where I'll use ternaries, usually on something that's already very simple, or yeah, mostly that. Mostly something that's very simple. I almost never use ternaries if I'm calling methods. Um, I'd rather see the if else statements more very clearly written. So I definitely agree with that. In Elixir, for example, you can use the following shorthand for an anonymous function. I think the other way is more readable. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that makes sense. Less code isn't the goal. Readable code is the goal. I do. I like that, Dan. I like that a lot. Less code is not the goal. Readable code is the goal, and planned code is the goal. I think especially. Let's see. What's Ming said? That's not entirely true. There's a mono repo for a reason. That's development because if you want to get the product out fast, if you're in a startup, not sure about large companies, I would get something out fast, then after optimize and iterate on mistakes. Yes and no, but you can iterate. So sort of the methodology of agile is that you are starting with something small and iterating over that, adding to it, not necessarily rewriting it every time. I don't think you want to be rewriting your code everything. I think you want to add to it. You want to grow it and make it more. Let's see. Welcome, Sedeb. Hopefully I said that right. Welcome over on the YouTube side. Thanks for joining us. Let's see. Documentation is essential, Ming says, to the development because when a new dev joins, they need to know the code base and the whole scope of the project too. Not all devs write docs because it's very time consuming. Not everyone has time for it. Writing docs is part of best practices of programming, which I have had almost nobody ever do. Ever, 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 ever. In any of the jobs that I've worked, documentation is almost never really thought of. We all get mad because it's not there, but nobody actually likes to write it. So it may be a best practice, but it's a best practice that most people aren't actually doing. Let's see. Dan says, I think AI tools are helping a lot. Yeah. The problem with company docs is they go stale quickly. That is the other part of the problem. Absolutely. These days, I'm more keen to use Claude and interrogate the repo or use deepwiki.com. Ooh, what's that? Deepwiki. Deepwiki.com. Which repo would you like to understand? Ooh, interesting. What is this? I have not seen this before, Dan. Hmm. Purpose and scope. Ooh. Oh, it's got diagrams and stuff? Ooh. Interesting. Huh. I have never. Oh, you can ask it questions. Oh, ask Devin. Devin. They snuck Devin in here. Really? Come on. All right. That's cool. We might look at that a little bit later. Let me jump over to YouTube here. Um, hopefully I say this name correctly. Sedeb says, "Can you tell me how to get a fresher job as I'm 2025 graduate, but not able to get a job? What should I learn? As I know about the Mern stack, should I stick to it or learn something else?" Um, so I think it really depends, and I know that's not a very fun or fair answer. Um, it's not one that people like, actually, unfortunately, but it's the truth. So a lot of it depends on what people are hiring for, where you're trying to get a job. So The first thing that I would recommend is going through and learning, or not learning, but searching through local job boards. Now, that doesn't mean you can't get a job internationally. That doesn't mean you can't, work for a company outside of yours. I mean, obviously, Dan is working for a company down in. And Dan says they're still teaching the MERN stack. Yeah. So the Dan works for a company out in Australia. So I'm not saying that you can't look outside your local area, but generally I tell people to look around at what companies around you are hiring for. So go on a job board. So for example, let's just go to what's a job board these days? I had it, maybe LinkedIn. Let's pull this back out. Jobs. I want so let's do something broad. Um, Web developer in Kansas City. So I'm in Kansas City, Missouri. So I'm going to do something like web developer in Kansas City, Missouri. That's a fairly broad job because I don't want to I don't want to be like MERN stack. I don't want to be, because I want to see what people are actually putting job postings up for. All right. So let's see what we've got here. Let's see. Web content specialist. I don't want to be a content software engineer. Here we go. Software engineer, full stack, C# and React. Okay, so we've got C# and React. I'm going to take, let me see. I should take some notes here. Hang on. Can I break this out? Come out. We'll just do, there we go. Okay. Sorry. You can't see anything I'm doing. Trying to, okay. All right, so we've got C# and React. All right, both of those have one. Actually, no, I should do this. Hang on. I'm going to do this something else. Hang on. Okay, so we've got language / framework. And then we've got jobs listed. There's probably some platform out there that could probably give us this information, but let's just do it the hard way. I hate that whole table thing. Okay, you guys can see that? Good. Okay, so we've got C# and 1, and React and 1. All right, so let's go back over here. So the next one, UMB. What are we looking for? Wouldn't it be nice if they told you up here what they were looking for? That's a senior software engineer, but I'm not worried too much about the role necessarily. I'm looking for the actual languages. Man, there is just nothing great. Okay, Node.js. Interesting. Okay, well, let's add it. Node for 1. I didn't see anything else. E-commerce web designer. Is it a designer or a developer? Qualifications. HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Yeah, that's just design. Application developer. So, let's see. Man, why is it so hard to see? Okay, we got .NET and C#. We'll put .NET and C# on the same thing. So we got two things here. Boom. So that's 2. Software developer. We won't do this much longer here, I promise. I should ask AI to do this for me. Where is the OpenAI? AWS fields above, blah 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 blah. Where's the JavaScript at? Node on the back end, React on the front end, Postgres. All right, so I would go through and I would do these. This is not helpful at all because so far we've got even numbers here. But the idea is go through and figure out what are companies actually hiring for, and look at the stuff that that you know. So for example, if you're in the MERN stack, you know you've got React and Node, right? So React and Node, that is good. Now you're dealing with Mongo, um, and right, isn't that Mongo? What's the E stand for? I forget now. What is the MERN stack? Is that Express? Yeah, Express, React, Node, MongoDB. Okay. Yeah. So the MERN stack, I knew what it was. So yeah, I would go through. So we've got MERN, sort of. There's a few jobs that are Node and React. They were, I think both of those were actually Postgres though. So you might have to look for something maybe that's not Mongo. Maybe you'll have to pick up some Postgres or MySQL or something like that. I would do Postgres, but that's what I would do. I would go through and see first of all what's popular, in the hiring world. What are they actually hiring for right now? Where do my skills fit in with what people are looking for, and is there anything that I need to learn in order to get one of those jobs? Now, of course, that changes over time, but as you go through and do some research and find out what people are hiring for, you're going to find it's probably not MERN, just to be honest with you. A MERN stack is, I've only ever done one application in a MERN stack. It turned out okay, but it wasn't, well, actually I take that back. It's not even MERN. It's Node Express, React, and MySQL on the back end. So I guess it is MERN, just with MySQL instead of Mongo. There you go. But yeah, I would not. I wouldn't probably look for just MERN stack jobs, right? So if I went, let's do a MERN stack and just see. There's mean stack. Darn Angular people. Lots of mean stack. At least here in Kansas City, right? So I just don't tie yourself down to a particular stack. That's what I'm saying. Instead of looking for just the right job and what you know, look for what people are hiring and see how what you know fits into what they're hiring for. And if you need to learn something else, you can go learn that, right? So go learn the things that people are looking for. Don't just look for people who are hiring what you know. All right, that's a pretty good slogan, actually. Learn the things people are looking for. Don't just look for jobs that people are looking for what you know. I didn't say it well the second time either. Oh well. So that would be my main suggestion, Sebed, or Sedeb. Sorry for that. I would not. If not MERN, can you suggest some stack or technology from an Indian? Honestly, there's a pretty big group in India around the Laravel stack, and I'll just be honest with you, I'm a Laravel fan. It's what we use at the company that I work for probably the most, although we are pretty agnostic in what we do. But Laravel's pretty big in India as well. That's a PHP. So it's gonna take a good bit of learning if you've not learned like C# or PHP or something like that. It's gonna be more Postgres, MySQL based, although it can connect to other things as well. But yeah, that would probably be my suggestion. And Laravel has a lot of good learning resources. It's pretty easy to pick up. So Laravel's a framework for PHP. It's my favorite framework, really, of all. But it'll work with React. You can use React with it as well. You're not completely walking away from everything that you know. But I know Laravel's pretty big in India. I'm pretty sure C# is and .NET are pretty big in. I think they're the same thing, but I honestly don't know. I've never written any. I should figure that out. They seem to be used interchangeably. So .NET seems to be pretty big in everywhere, but it's a little bit more expensive to get into. At least it used to be. That's why I got into PHP originally. But if you want something that's definitely free to learn, I would check out PHP. Check out Laravel. One of the people that I would recommend learning from, if you wanted to go this route, would be Traversy Media. I don't think I have them. Oh, I need to go see this video. It looks like she might have gotten a job. Note to self: watch later. Okay, so let me see. What am I? Traversy Media. Traversy Media. Okay. So Traversy Media is one of the tutorial sites that I like or the tutorial YouTubers that I like the most. Does a really good job of explaining stuff. But let me go to the channel here because there's a ton of videos. He's been doing this a long time. But he's got a startup course. It's like crash course in PHP. Is there a search? There should be a search here. Right? Here we go. PHP crash course. So you can learn PHP. It's a 3-hour crash course. Here's what I say. If you already know how to write some sort of programming language like JavaScript, you should be able to pick up something else fairly easily. Yeah, Traversy's great, man. And there's a absolute beginners. Who is this? I don't even know who this guy is. That's a 6.5-hour course. That's 4 years ago though. That's older. I don't know if there's anything newer than this 3-year-old one, but it's pretty good. But then there's Laravel from scratch. That's a 4-hour course. I would recommend both of those. Very good to get your feet wet. This is a few years old, so it's not going to be Laravel 12, obviously, but it'll get you kind of the basics of the framework. So, I mean, literally, if you spent a whole day going through those, you would have a pretty solid foundation understanding of PHP and Laravel. And Laravel is really easy to get into, in my opinion. So I would look into that. I don't know what the job market is in India, but I would do that research, right? I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to doing the research and seeing what's out there that people are hiring for, taking your knowledge and seeing how that fits into the world that is already there, instead of trying to find people who are hiring what you know. The reality is that the development world is constantly changing. What people are looking for is constantly changing. I'll be honest with you, the MERN stack I don't think really ever took off, but it was easy to teach because it was mostly JavaScript. And so when everything that you're doing is JavaScript, including basically Mongo, it just makes it easier to teach all that stuff at one time, as opposed to teaching HTML, CSS, JavaScript, PHP, MySQL. That's 5 as opposed to 3. That it makes it easier to teach the MERN stack, whereas teaching a more robust stack is going to take longer. But the reality is most applications that are enterprise running are not running the MERN stack. They're not running the mean stack, frankly. Node, really, I've not heard of any major application that runs exclusively off of Node. So I think you have to learn to adjust your skills and knowledge and training to what is out there. that people are looking for. Because I'll be honest with you, things like .NET, things like Java, PHP, those languages have been around for a long time. They're not going away, and people are still hiring for them. So it's really unfortunate to me that a lot of these boot camps and things sold people on learning MERN and MEAN and mostly front end heavy languages, because some of the best jobs out there are .NET, Java, PHP, these languages that have been around a long time that are still getting better, that are still growing in a sense, right? So if I were advising somebody who's just getting in, I would find out what they think they like. I would have them I would send them to Traversy, right? Here's what I would do for somebody getting in for the first time. I'd take them here and I'd say, take this course. It's about an hour. Oh, wait, hang on. HTML crash course. Yeah. Programming, web development. Okay, not this. This is not what I'm looking for. I would have them take HTML crash course, CSS crash course, JavaScript crash course. Then I would have them take the PHP crash course, and the MySQL crash course. Or if they were, well, that's what I would do, because all of that stuff's free. All of that stuff's pretty easy to install. It's pretty easy to learn. So I would do those 5 things. And then from there I would say, okay, what do you like doing more? Do you like doing front end stuff and more design stuff? Do you like doing more of the back end architecture stuff? And from that point, maybe focus more then on Laravel. If you're gonna do more back end stuff, if you're gonna do more front end stuff, pick one of the front end frameworks like Vue or React. Probably not Angular, but again, you've already got React, right? So this is how I would encourage somebody to learn nowadays. And if they're going front end, then maybe I would have them learn some Next, especially if they're doing React, or Nuxt if they're learning Vue. Some of those front end basically front end servers built out of JavaScript, right? So I would have you learn some very basics in front end and back end that will actually do you good no matter what you do. And then I would say, what do you enjoy doing the most? And whatever you enjoy doing the most, learn more about that. And in doing that, do it in such a way that is pointed towards what people are looking for near you. Now, again, that doesn't mean you can't get hired internationally. You were talking about being in India, I believe. So I assume in India. That doesn't mean you won't get a job for like a U.S. company or an European company or something like that. You possibly may, but what you see people hiring for locally is probably going to be fairly the same internationally as well. We all are. The things that are popular for a reason. They're popular because they're used. Whereas, if you're finding that the MERN stack is not very popular, it's because people probably aren't really using it to build real production level apps. At least not in nearly the volume that you're going to find for some of these other languages and frameworks. So that is what I would encourage you to do. That was what I would encourage somebody who's looking to get into the development world. That's the direction that I would send them. And the other thing that I would have them learn, especially right now, is how to understand and interact with AI, or specifically LLMs, right? And how to interact with those, how to use them to your advantage, both as a learning platform as well as use them in your day-to-day work too. So yeah, absolutely, Sadeb. And let me know if I'm saying your name wrong too, because hopefully I'm saying it right. I've worked with a number of Indian developers, but that doesn't mean I know how to pronounce everything right. So hopefully I'm getting it right. But yeah, thanks for jumping in and joining the conversation. If you happen to be watching live, jump in the conversation, jump in the chat. if you have a question for me specifically, write at DevMentorDave at the beginning. That just makes it a little bit more obvious for me. Sadeb had it easy because he's the only one in the chat on the YouTube side, so it was easy for me to see him there. So anyway, great question, and absolutely feel free to ask others too along the way. So yeah, that's something I think I'd be interested in hearing your opinion on that, Dan, as well, since you've been around at least as long as I have, if not longer. But I forget how old you are. But I'd be interested to see what you think as far as that process. I'll go back. I know you guys have been talking here. Let me read. Just so you know, so Deb, we have some people watching on the Twitch side, so there's another chat over there. So let's see. Dan says, I'm not saying don't learn a stack. I'm saying learn how it works without a stack first, so that you have at least a general understanding of how things work. Good point. If you use PHP or Go for learning backend, they have very exhaustive standard libraries, so you could understand a lot of basics without needing to learn the framework. I agree. Very good. Understanding how things works means you can pick up whatever the hot new framework of the month is. That's another. So I'm a huge fan of at least at a high level understanding how something works before you start using it. I think I mentioned to you guys I did a talk on an AI talk at a local charity here a couple weeks ago, and the first thing that I went through was very high level. When we say AI, what are we talking about, right? So that they understand, what very high level, right? Very high level. What is a model? What is a generative model? What is an LLM? Kind of these different aspects of what we're really doing when we're interacting with AI and what it's actually doing. Again, very high level, because frankly, my knowledge is very high level. So just trying to help people understand how it's working to a degree, because if you understand how AI is working, that helps you understand better why you're getting the results that you're getting when you're using it, and how, at least in some way, how to kind of adjust what you're putting into it and how you're interacting with it, right? So I think I love the idea, Dan, that you have there of making sure that you understand the language that you're using. You understand what's actually going on, how it works, as much as you can. Let's see. Anything outside of JavaScript has a steep learning curve at the start, except for Python. I'll be honest with you, I didn't learn JavaScript till after I learned PHP. I didn't realize that JavaScript was a thing. I had HTML and I had CSS, and then I heard about this thing called server-side processing or server-side languages, and I was like, what does that do? Well, that actually lets you save stuff in a database and things like that. So I actually jumped into PHP before I jumped into JavaScript. I would say learning JavaScript was easy because I already knew PHP when I learned it. So I think learning the basics, the fundamentals of programming in general, no matter what language you start with, is really the key. Kind of like Dan was talking about a minute ago. It's not so much about the language even, it's about the fundamentals of programming. And I think you could learn that without necessarily having a specific language. I mean, frankly, what was that language or that app that kids used to use? Oh, my kids played around with it. Scratch. Is that still around? Let's see. Scratchfoundation.org. So I think you could even use something like this, where go away. Where you are understanding and learning the fundamentals of programming, without necessarily even seeing the language. Like, you don't need to know the language to understand variables and for loops and or just loops in general, and conditionals, things like that. Like you can learn functions, you can learn those concepts without really ever even necessarily using a specific language. So I don't know that one language is necessarily easier to learn than another. I think it's the fundamentals of programming that you learn and which ones you learn. And I think depending on the language and the use case of that language, why you're learning it makes a difference too, as to how quickly and easily you learn the fundamentals of programming. So yeah, I don't know. I don't agree or disagree. I think any language you start with is probably it's going to be as difficult as any other, just because you're most likely learning the basics of programming to begin with. So Dan says teaching Next.js in the boot camp is an incredible disservice. Teaching new devs from a framework that is mixing front end and back end and very complex advanced rendering concepts is doing them a disservice. It's too much all at once. Yeah. Especially, well, and here's the problem, Dan. I don't think they're really teaching them to understand it. They're teaching them to use it, and just in a very high level. This is how you get a page to render. This is how you add components to that page. This is how, maybe they get into doing like API calls and the way that Next has them set it up, but I don't think they're really teaching like the full orb of using that software, right? So I think that's more the issue. It's not necessarily that it's too complex, but they're making it they're giving the idea that it's simple when it's not simple, right? That's true. Nobody likes JSX except for me. And maybe Sadeb, I don't know. Give me Vue any day. So can you tell I'm not a fan of JSX? I don't know. Ming said, I think you mentioned this before. Sorry, Ming. I have a junior level interview next week. However, they would like to see some qualifications. I only have freelance and contracting experience and short-term contracts. I have all the skills and tech stack. However, the job description doesn't state the tech stack. What are your thoughts? They want to see some qualification. I mean, what does that mean? What do they mean by that they want to see some qualifications? Is it they just want to see stuff that you've written? Do they want you to walk through it with them? That would be my question. And that's true, Dan. Even Vue, you have to know HTML, CSS. Oh, okay. Degrees or certifications I've completed for online courses. Yeah, maybe today it's much more difficult, but for me, I've just always said, look, I'm self-taught. I learned things the hard way. I learned them on my own. I learned them using AI nowadays, I'd have to say. Um, I I I teach myself, and that means that I have to go out there and figure out how things work, and I have to know how things work, not because somebody told me how it's supposed to work, but because I've experienced it, I've dealt with it, I've struggled with it. Um, so I don't have certifications and I don't have degrees. What I have is a lot of blood, sweat, and tears and struggle and knowledge because of that and experience because of that. Um, I mean, I think that's the only way that you can approach it, because if you don't have a degree, you don't have certification, um, there's no other real explanation, frankly, of why you are where you are, other than hard work and determination and self learning. So I think that's the only way that you can really go about it. And I mean, unless you're willing to pay to take some courses and get certifications or things like that, um, it would not be high on my list. I'll be honest with you, though. I'm not looking for a job as a junior developer today. So you guys may be seeing that more companies out there are wanting things like certifications, There were a couple of jobs, even when we were going through them a few minutes ago, there were a couple of jobs talking about having a computer science degree, right? That might be becoming more and more prevalent than it used to be. I mean, it used to be everybody I worked with was self-taught. If anybody had a CS degree around me in the jobs that I've had, they were the exception, not the rule. Most of us were self-taught um, developers, and so I think that's all you can do. Um, yeah, I would just pick, if you have the opportunity to talk through your project, I would pick the project that you've learned the most on and explain as you're showing it to them the struggle that the problems that you ran into, the ways that you figured out how to fix it, the solutions that you came up with. If you're going to be able to talk through your project, do that. If you're just giving them your project, give them the most complete and bug-free project that you have. So kind of two different, they could be the same one, but kind of two different objectives there. If you're just handing it over to them, give them the most polished thing you have. If you are walking them through the code base, if your best example of something that you have worked on and struggled through and learned and grown in is not the most polished one, then don't use the most polished one. Use the one that you can talk through. So that would be maybe my caveat there with that specific scenario. Yeah, I mean, that or just, volume is good too. Like Ming says, I've built quite a big full stack web app. Yeah, I mean, if you've got something that's really big that encompasses lots of different modules or something like that that shows complexity, that can be really good as well. Yeah, just not a to-do app. Exactly, Dan. Just not a to-do app. That is important. Don't show them a to-do app. But yeah, especially if you got something kind of like the coffee shop app that you were talking about. I don't know if that's the one you're talking about right now, but that would be something that you want to do. So here's the thing, and this goes to Sadeb's question that he just put in, suggesting some project ideas. What I always recommend for junior devs, once they get past the basic learning process, is don't try to come up with, unless you just have one, don't try to come up with project ideas on your own. Talk to other people that you know, not developers. Talk to other people, especially if you know small business owners, if you know somebody working in another job, another field, right? Think of something, talk to people, and find out what is something that they're struggling with, something that that if they could automate, if they could make it easier to do with software, what would that be? And then take on that challenge. What that will do is that will cause you to interact with somebody who is more of a customer. So you're going to have to deal with what they think about the product. You're going to have to deal with their concepts and ideas of the product. You're going to have to deal with them maybe even changing the scope along the way. And this could be something that you get paid for, or maybe it's something that you don't get paid for. Totally up to you how you want to approach that. But building something for someone else is really, really big, because you get the client interaction issues that you have to deal with. You get the opportunity and the push to the force to be learned. You get forced to learn new things that you probably wouldn't have tried or thought about because of the requirements for the type of project that they need built. And that could be anything from learning a new way of thinking about inventory to learning how to write a mobile app because they need a mobile app and you didn't learn how to do mobile development, right? So I always encourage junior devs, find somebody that's not a developer and build something for them. And not something simple. Build something that would actually fix a problem, would meet a need. That is beneficial because you're going to be forced to learn new things. You're going to be forced to deal with clients, which a lot of devs are not forced to deal with right away. You're going to get a lot of experience that most junior devs are not going to get simply doing a bunch of tutorials. Um, and at the end of the day, you might could, now this is not a guarantee, but you might could find yourself building something that actually does make you money in the end, either in the form of creating a job or in the form of creating a product that you could resell to other small businesses that are similar. Um, I know that feels like pie in the sky right now, but all of that whole process will put you in a much better position than 95% of junior devs out there trying to apply for the same positions. Plus, in my opinion, you should put that on your resume as actually doing a project as a freelance developer for a client. Even if you don't get paid for it, put it on your resume as a freelance project for a client and talk about it in your interviews as a project that you did for a client. Talk about your interactions with the client. Talk about ways that they made it difficult and how you overcame those challenges. And in this day and age, how you used AI to help you maybe learn some of the things that you didn't know at the beginning. So there's not a specific project, Sadeb, that I would recommend. I think you need to find something that meets somebody else's need so that you are forced to learn things that you wouldn't have learned before. That is what makes you a better developer. That is what makes you move from a junior dev to a mid dev to a senior dev, is doing harder and harder things. Not necessarily more complicated things all the time, but just more things that you didn't know before, you hadn't experienced before. And the more you do that, the more experience you're going to get, the more things you're going to see. And again, for me, moving up as a developer is everything has to do with knowledge, experience, and confidence. The more you know, the more you've experienced, and the more confident you are, the easier it is to move up that ladder from junior dev to mid to senior level dev. And some of that takes time. I'm not saying you can do all of that in a month. Some of that's going to take years. Some of that knowledge and experience and not comfort. What's the word? I just forgot my own words. Knowledge, experience, confidence. So knowledge, experience, and confidence, those are going to grow over time. The more things you know means more things you're going to experience. Sometimes experience spurs on knowledge, but the more you know and the more you experience, the more confidence you're going to gain. And that's not going to be overnight. It's going to be a multi-year process, most likely, but it's a process that takes you from junior dev to senior dev all the time. That's the only way to do it. And so that's what I would say. I would look for ways to force yourself to know more, to experience more, so that you can have more confidence. And I think the best way to do that is to do an actual project for someone else, for a third party, whether you get paid for it or you don't get paid for it. That's up to you and how you want to work through that. But I think the best way to have knowledge and experience of doing what we do day in and day out as a job is to actually do what we do day in and day out as a job, and not just build sample products that nobody's really depending on, And I would encourage you, build something, take it to the finish line, deploy it in a production environment, have them use it, have them test it. That's going to be some of the best knowledge. Feedback from a customer is some of the best training that you can get as a developer, because we think that we understand what we're building, and a lot of times we really don't. So that's what I would suggest. Hopefully that makes sense and is helpful. All right, I'm gonna probably cut it off here, guys. I apologize. I know there's a lot more, especially Ming, typing a lot of things here in the link in the not the LinkedIn, in the Twitch chat. Let me run through them real fast. 50% finished, nice, on the ordering app. See, and again, that's another thing. If you've got a big full stack app, talk about what you're doing now with the new one. always talk about things that you're learning and growing in. Um, connects to, okay, nice. Mobile apps for other using it on mobile. Yep. That's always cool when you can add mobile app integration with something. That's pretty good. AI integration, that is a smart move. Learning how you can integrate AI into your applications, probably a really good thing to do right now. That's a great question, Sadeb. I'm not real knowledgeable of when it comes to finding international jobs. Um, I've never looked internationally, and obviously I'm coming from the United States, so that probably makes a big difference too. The company I work for right now, we only hire senior level devs from the United States, so I apologize. I really don't have um, a great idea to help you out with that, unfortunately. Maybe if somebody's watching this later on YouTube, and you know maybe some ideas for Sadeb to help with looking for international jobs as kind of a junior dev, leave a comment and let us know. Also, if you're watching this later, if you're watching, hey Sadeb, give me a like. But if you're watching this later on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you're not subscribed, so you're notified every time we come on live here. We are here generally every Monday through Friday from 4 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. Central United States time. Usually here on Saturdays from 10 a.m. to noon as well on at Central United States time. And Saturdays we usually jump into something else that's more coding, things like that. We'll discuss things as well. If you have questions, you can always throw those in the chat and we'll stop and do that. But we usually do something related to coding or AI or things like that these days over on our Saturdays, since it's usually a 2 hour. This is typically a half hour, but I missed yesterday, so I knew we're going to try to go a little bit longer today. So we're right at almost about, by the time I actually sign off, we'll probably be right at or past an hour for today. So thanks again, guys, for jumping on. I appreciate the conversation. Exactly, man. Coding and tons of questions. So yeah, so we'll see here. We'll be back here tomorrow, I believe, at 10 o'clock. I don't think I have anything else that should get in the way this week, so should be good. I'll be here at 10 o'clock tomorrow. Yeah, I think that's it. So hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching on Twitch, hit the follow button. We have 10 followers on Twitch. We just started streaming here about a month ago or so. So and that's why you're only in the chat, Ming. That's why you're only in the chat, so we don't take all day. All right. So thanks, guys, for jumping on. I will see you all tomorrow at 10 a.m. Have a great weekend, especially if you're not able to join us tomorrow live. Have a great weekend, and I will see you all back here for the Workday Recap on Monday. So thanks again. Oh, doggone it, my mouse moved and I hit the button and it didn't hit the transition. Urgh! Let's try that again. Have a great weekend.